Introduction: The Whisper Before the Awakening. There are no coincidences. If these words are reaching your ears right now, it's because something deep inside you has already begun to stir. You may not have named it. You may not have told anyone, but it's there. A quiet whisper behind your thoughts. A pulse beneath the noise. A feeling that something is missing, or more truthfully, that something sacred has been forgotten. This is not a book. This is a remembering. Not a teaching, but an unveiling. Not a map, but a mirror. For centuries, the world has wrapped you in illusions. You've been told who you are, what is real, and what you must do to belong. You've carried the names others gave you. You've lived stories you didn't write, but none of it was ever yours. And now, something is calling you back. This work you're about to enter, it's not merely a spiritual journey. It's a reclamation of your power, a return to your center, a gentle descent into your own sacred depths, where no one else can follow. We will speak of vibration, symbols, light and shadow, and the mysteries buried in plain sight. We'll explore the hidden meanings behind ancient truths, not as scholars, but as souls remembering what we already know. We'll walk through the alchemy of being. We'll dissolve the masks of ego, uncover the silence beneath thought, and discover that you are not what you believe. You are what you are beyond belief. You'll be reminded that every word you speak, every emotion you feel, every vision you hold, carries weight in the unseen world. You'll remember that reality is not something that happens to you. It's something that emerges from you. And above all, you'll be reminded that you were never separate. Not from a source, not from others, not from a universe that breathes with you, through you, as you. So take a breath. This is not a destination. It's a return to presence, to truth, to stillness so alive it moves the stars. Let this be the soft opening of the gate, a moment between moments, a threshold where you leave behind what was taught and begin to feel what is known. The journey doesn't start with a map. It starts with a question. What if you are more than you were ever told? What if everything, truly everything, you've ever sought already lives within you? Let's begin not with an answer, but with an awakening. Chapter 1. The Dream and the Forgetting. There was a time when you knew, not as thought, not as memory, but as presence, pure and whole. Before you were named, before you were given a role to play, before your hand were trained to grasp, and your eyes taught to fear the dark. There was a time when you walked in rhythm with the pulse of the stars, when the sound of the wind wasn't just noise, but a message you could understand, when water spoke and you listened, when silence wasn't empty, it was full. But then, the dream began. Not the dream you dream at night, but the one you were born into with open eyes and a quiet surrender. A dream of forgetting. Forgetting that you are not separate. Forgetting that you are not broken. Forgetting that the sky is not above you, but within you. And so the illusion took shape. It came softly, wrapped in stories. It was whispered by adults whose own hearts had long since closed. It was sung by systems designed to keep you small. They told you the world was hard, that you were fragile, that you must strive, compete, survive. They drew lines between spirit and flesh, between self and other, between sacred and profane. And you, innocent and open, believed them. You believed them when they told you that joy must be earned, that silence was dangerous, that love must be deserved, that your worth could be measured. And so you began to forget. You forgot the way light bends around your breath. You forgot how to hear your own soul. You forgot that your very existence is holy. But still, somewhere, somehow, a spark remained, a trace of the truth they couldn't erase. a sliver of memory embedded deep in your bones, a vibration that no lie could silence. And from this spark, a question began to rise. Not loud, not urgent, but insistent. A question without words. A question felt in the longing behind your laughter, in the ache beneath your achievements, in the quiet sadness that no success could soothe. Who am I really? This was not a question of identity. It was the soul remembering that it has been disguised. It was the seed of awakening, the beginning of the return. The truth is, you never truly became lost. You were only hidden, layered in belief, wrapped in forgetfulness, distracted by illusions. The ego, that brilliant, confused construction, built itself to protect you, to make sense of chaos, to survive in a world that taught you to fear your own light. But you're not the mask. You are the face beneath, not the name, but the breath that gives it life. You're the space between thoughts, the silence between words, the still point beneath the spinning wheel. And now, you are beginning to remember, not intellectually, but somatically, spiritually, energetically. The body knows. The breath knows. The dreams you've ignored, they know. You're remembering that reality is not a prison. It's a reflection, that your life is not a problem to be solved. It's a pattern to be unveiled. You're remembering that what you feel isn't wrong. It's a message. That your pain is not a punishment. It's a passage. That your yearning isn't weakness. It's wisdom trying to rise. You're remembering that everything, even your forgetting, was part of the design. Because without the forgetting, there is no beauty in the remembering. Without the descent, there is no power in the return. So let yourself breathe. You don't need to fix anything. You don't need to fight. You don't need to know the whole path. You just need to be still long enough to hear the whisper you've always carried. The dream has served its purpose. It protected you while you slept, but now it dissolves. And what remains is the presence. That never left. The journey has begun, not toward something new, but toward what has always been here. Waiting, watching, patient, like light behind a curtain. You are not waking up to a new world. You are waking up to the world as it truly is. And now that you've touched the edge of this truth, something deep within you calls louder. It's time to follow the flame. It's time to answer the call that your soul has waited lifetimes to hear. It's time for the inner fire to speak. Chapter 2, The Inner Call. There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the silence becomes too loud to ignore. A moment when the ache in the chest can no longer be explained by routine, by logic, by the distractions of everyday life. It is not dramatic. It is not sudden. It doesn't announce itself with thunder. Instead, it arrives in stillness, like the pause between heartbeats, like a shadow that follows you across lifetimes. This is the inner call. It doesn't beg for attention. It waits. It doesn't speak in words. It vibrates in knowing. It's there when you look in a mirror and feel the hollowness behind your smile. It's there when the success you worked so hard for tastes empty on your tongue. It's there when the applause fades and you're left with a silence that knows your name. The inner call is ancient, older than your birth, older than time. It was with you when you chose to enter this life. It sang to you in the womb. It walked with you through childhood when you played without fear and felt awe in things no one else could see. But as the world grew louder, you began to forget how to hear it. You were taught to replace mystery with measurement, wonder with certainty, soul with schedule. But the call never left. It waited, in your bones, in your blood, in the space just behind your thoughts. And now it's rising, not to pull you away from your life, but to pull you into it fully, not to reject the world, but to reveal its deeper layers. This call is not for the faint of heart. It does not promise ease, but it promises truth. It promises a fire that does not burn, it purifies. A darkness that does not confuse, it awakens. The call will not give you answers. It will tear the false ones away. It will dissolve every mask you thought you needed to survive. Because this isn't about becoming someone else. It's about unbecoming everything you're not. The longing you feel, that's not emptiness. That's spaciousness, the clearing before rebirth. The frustration you feel, that's not failure. That's the friction of the soul expanding beyond old limitations. The loneliness you feel, that's not exile. That's the echo of your spirit calling you back to communion, not with the crowd, but with your true self. This is not a self-improvement project. This is a soul retrieval, a remembering, a realignment, a resurrection. And here's the truth. You were never lost. You were only distracted. You were never broken. You were only disconnected. You don't need to search for purpose. You are the purpose. Your very being is the mission. Your breath is prayer. Your presence is medicine. But the call will ask something of you. It will ask for your honesty. It will ask you to look at the places you've numbed, to sit with the grief you've buried, to listen to the dreams you've silenced. It will ask for your courage, not the loud kind, not the kind that performs, but the quiet kind, the courage to stop pretending, the courage to slow down, the courage to feel everything. The call is the doorway, but only you can walk through. There will be moments of doubt. There will be moments where you wish you could go back to sleep. But once you hear it, truly hear it, you can never unknow what you've remembered. You may try to return to your old life. You may even succeed for a time, but something will always feel off, out of rhythm, colorless. Because once the inner fire is lit, you can never again pretend to be cold. And slowly, everything begins to change. You begin to see meaning in what once felt random. You begin to sense energy beneath words. You begin to feel vibrations in people, in places, in sounds. The call opens your senses, but not just the physical ones. Your spiritual senses begin to awaken. You no longer look, you see. You no longer hear, you listen. You no longer react, you respond. And this responsiveness becomes a sacred dance. A dance with your breath, with time, with emotion, with the pulse of the universe itself. This is where the journey deepens. You're not just remembering who you are. You're becoming a vessel for something greater to move through you. You begin to live not from mind alone, but from soul, from intuition, from presence. You begin to live as a prayer. And the beauty of it is this: there is no final destination. The path does not lead to an ending. It leads deeper into being. This is the path of the awakened, the path of the soft and fierce, the path of the surrendered and sovereign. And it begins always with the inner call. Now that you've heard it, not with your ears, but with your essence, you're ready to begin the work, not of adding more, but of shedding what never was. You've heard the whisper. You've felt the stirring. Now, let's begin the transformation. Let's begin the great work. Chapter 3, The Great Work, the Alchemy of Being. The ancients spoke of the great work, magnum opus, not as a project of the hands, but as a journey of the soul. They weren't talking about gold, not the kind that glitters, but a gold that cannot be held, only embodied. A radiance born not from wealth, but from wisdom hard-earned in silence. Alchemy was never about turning lead into precious metal. That was a metaphor, a veil for something far more powerful. It was always about turning the dense weight of unconsciousness into the brilliance of awakened presence. You're the alchemist. Your life is the laboratory, and the fire, the sacred fire, is already burning within you. But to begin the great work, you must enter the first gate. Stage 1, Nigredo, the dissolution. Before we remember who we are, we must forget who we are not. Nigredo, the blackening, is the moment when everything false begins to fall apart. It often comes as crisis, loss, disorientation, the collapse of everything you thought was certain. Not because the universe is cruel, but because the soul can no longer breathe beneath the layers of illusion. This is the death of the ego's kingdom, the shattering of the mask, the stripping of the armor. It is painful, it is messy, it feels like breaking, but what's really breaking is the lie, and beneath the ashes of your former self, a seed waits. Nigredo is not destruction, it is preparation. It's the sacred darkness before the dawn, the void from which new light is born. Stage 2, albedo, the purification. Wash the black until it shines white as moonlight. Once the illusions dissolve, you find yourself in the still, silent waters of albedo, the whitening. This is the stage of purification. Not moral purity, but energetic clarity. Here, your perception sharpens, the noise quiets, and the essence of truth begins to rise. You begin to see the programs that ran you, the stories you inherited but never questioned, the beliefs that were never yours to carry. You begin to clear the temple. Old emotional residues surface. Shadow aspects emerge, not to punish you, but to be embraced, integrated, transmuted. You do not banish the shadow. You sit with it. You hold it. You bless it until it reveals its gift. This is not a process of rejection. It is a process of reintegration. Every emotion, every wound, every fear, they are raw materials of the soul's awakening. You're not getting rid of anything. You're bringing everything into wholeness. And as you do, a new light begins to burn within you. Stage 3, rubedo, the union. The red stage, when gold emerges from the ashes. Rubedo, the reddening, is the final stage, the fusion of opposites. Masculine and feminine, shadow and light, spirit and body, heaven and earth. No more separation, no more exile, only integration. You no longer seek to escape the world. You seek to embody the divine within it. You speak with clarity. You walk with presence. You create with intention. And you love, not because it's safe, but because it's true. You begin to live as a whole being, a living flame, a walking temple. This is not enlightenment as escape. This is embodiment as liberation, the sacred marriage of all your parts, not in theory, but in living reality. You become the philosopher's stone. The ancient texts spoke of the philosopher's stone, that mythical object that could transmute lead into gold. But what if the stone was never a thing to find, but a state to become? What if the true philosopher's stone is a human soul who has walked through fire and emerged whole? You're not meant to chase magic. You're meant to become it. Your body is the Athenor, the alchemical furnace. Your breath is the bellows. Your awareness is the flame. Everything you need is already inside you. And this is the true secret of the great work. The gold you seek is you. You do not need to be anything more. You need only to become fully what you already are. The fire will not destroy you. It will reveal you. So stand in it. Let it burn away the names, the fears, the borrowed beliefs. Let it burn away the need to be understood, or to prove, or to perform. Let it reduce you to your essence. And from those ashes, you will rise. You will walk forward, not as seeker, but as sovereign flame. And when you do, the world will recognize you, not for what you wear, or say, or achieve, but for the light you now carry. Because light doesn't need to announce itself. It simply radiates. Now that you've stepped into the fire, let's speak of the symbols that guide us. Let's explore the sacred patterns that live beneath form. Let us begin to read the hidden language of the soul. Chapter 4. The Dance of Symbols. There is a language older than words, older than breath, older than time. It speaks not to your mind, but to your essence. It doesn't explain, it awakens. It doesn't argue, it reveals. This is the language of symbols. You have known it before. You felt its pull in a spiral carved into stone. You've traced it with your eyes in the petals of flower. You've seen it shimmer in your dreams, not as images, but as remembering, because symbols don't teach. They unlock. Symbols are not decorations. They are codes. A symbol is a vibration made visible. Each symbol is a mirror, but it doesn't reflect the surface. It reflects the structure, the underlying harmony, the architecture of being. That's why when you see a sacred symbol, something stirs, even if you don't understand it. Because you're not meant to understand it. You're meant to resonate with it. It speaks not to the intellect, but to the deep memory buried in your bones. The spiral, the path of return. The spiral appears everywhere. In galaxies, in hurricanes, in seashells, in your DNA. Why? Because the spiral is the geometry of growth. Not linear progress, but circular deepening. Each time you return, you are not in the same place. You are deeper, wider, more awake. The spiral teaches us that evolution is not about climbing higher, but about remembering more fully, coming home again and again, to ourselves. The tree, bridge between realms, roots in the earth, branches in the sky. The tree doesn't choose between matter and spirit. It unites them, is both grounded and reaching, both silent and alive. In its trunk, we find the vertical axis, the pillar of being that runs through every awakened life. And its cycles, death, shedding, stillness, rebirth, mirror our own. The tree of life, Yggdrasil, the Bodhi tree, different names, same truth. You're not separate from the tree. You are it. The eye, inner vision. You've seen the symbol, a single eye, sometimes inside a triangle, sometimes within a sun. To the unawakened, it's a symbol of surveillance. To the awakened, it's the invitation to see beyond illusion. This is not the eye that looks outward. This is the eye that looks through. It sees energy, sees essence, sees without distortion. The ancient Egyptians called it the Eye of Horus. Mystics call it the third eye. You can call it whatever you wish. But when it opens, you'll know. Not because of what you see, but because of what you stop believing. The flower of life, the blueprint. It looks like art. It feels like perfection. Interlocking circles forming a sacred lattice. A map of creation itself. Hidden within it are the platonic solids, the building blocks of all matter. But more than that, this symbol speaks to your wholeness, to the interconnectedness of all things, to the fact that nothing exists in isolation. You cannot find your place in the universe until you feel how deeply you belong to it. The flower of life doesn't show you what to do. It reminds you what you are. Symbols are frequencies made visible. Everything is vibration. Your body, your thoughts, your emotions. When vibration slows down, it becomes form. That's what symbols are. Condensed vibration, stabilized frequency, encoded meaning. When you meditate on a symbol, you're not just looking at an image. You're harmonizing with a frequency, like a tuning fork for the soul. You begin to vibrate in resonance with sacred patterns. And slowly, silently, you begin to reorganize yourself. Not by force, but by frequency. The misuse of symbols. But there's another truth, and we must name it. Symbols can awaken, but they can also be used to control, because those who understand symbols can also weaponize them. Brands, Flags, logos, icons, they aren't random. They're designed to trigger emotion, to bypass reason, to program you subconsciously. The same power that heals can hypnotize. So we must become conscious again. We must reclaim the symbolic language as sacred, not commercial. We must see with new eyes, eyes that ask, what frequency is this image transmitting? Does it lift me or suppress me? Does it reflect my truth or sell me a lie? Because awakening is discernment, creating your own symbolic alphabet. Every awakened soul builds their own library of meaning. It's not about collecting sacred geometry. It's about discovering what speaks to your soul. For some, it's a spiral. For others, a flame. For you, it might be a simple circle drawn by hand. That means more than any book ever could. These are not decorations. They are your sigils of becoming. So begin to collect them, draw them, wear them, sit with them, let them work on you, in the silence beneath thought. And one day, they won't just be outside of you. They will rise from within. Because the final truth is this: you are not here to study symbols. You are here to become one. Now that your eyes have been reawakened, we will speak of the power that carries these forms into the world. Not as shape, but as sound. Not as idea, but as vibration. Let's now explore the sacred language of sound and the true meaning of the living name. Chapter 5. The Sacred Language. There is a sound that echoes across all creation. It is not loud. It is not even always heard with the ears, but it is always present. It lives beneath all music, all speech, all language. It is the hum of existence, and it vibrates through you now, in your breath, in your heartbeat, in your very cells. This is the realm of sacred sound. Long before alphabets were carved into clay, long before books were written, there was only this: breath and intention. A single word, spoken with pure presence, carried more power than 1,000 books ever could. Because words, when awakened, are not just expressions. They are frequencies, spells, seeds, the name that cannot be spoken. Every tradition speaks of it. A name so holy, so powerful, that to speak it carelessly is to misuse its essence. In Judaism, it is the Tetragrammaton, YHWH, the ineffable name. In Islam, the 99 names of God, each one a portal to an aspect of the divine. In the Vedas, Om, the primal vibration, the syllable from which all other sounds emerge. These are not just names. They are currents of energy. Each one is a living vibration, a pathway, a tone of consciousness. Mantra, daikar, sacred chant. In Sanskrit, mantra means mind tool, not something to believe in, but something to tune with. A mantra is not magic because of what it says, but because of what it does. It changes your frequency. The same is true of daikar in the Sufi path, the repetition of divine names, not to remind God of us, but to remind us of God. It is the sacred echo of the soul returning to itself, not by thinking, not by understanding, but by sounding. Your voice becomes a bridge, a bell, a tuning fork. You don't need to be trained. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. The word is a circle. In the beginning was the word. This is not metaphor. This is structure. Sound shapes matter. The word creates worlds. Your thoughts, when voiced, become geometry in motion. That's why sacred speech is not casual. It is intentional, conscious, vibrational. When you speak, you're not just expressing, you are designing reality. So ask yourself, what are you creating with your voice? What spells are you casting with your casual words? Are you cursing your path, or are you blessing your becoming? The voice as divine instrument. You are given a voice not just to speak, but to weave sound into soul. Your throat is a sacred gateway. Your breath is divine substance. Your words are flame, either destructive or illuminating. The ancients knew this. That's why initiation always involves silence first, then sound, because unless silence is honored, sound becomes noise. But once silence is known, even a whisper becomes a prayer. You don't need eloquence. You need presence. One word spoken from the depth of truth shakes the unseen, the living name within you. There's a name you carry that no one else can say. It's not your given name. It's not written on a document. It's written in vibration, etched into the architecture of your being. When you speak from that place, when you let your voice rise from your core truth, you're no longer speaking. You are resonating. And in that resonance, others remember their own song. That is the sacred power of awakened voice. Not to dominate, not to impress, but to remind. Practice speaking from the sacred center. Find a quiet place. Place your hand on your heart. Breathe. Don't rush. Let the stillness rise. Let it settle in your mouth. And then say a word that means something to you. Peace, truth, light, God, freedom. Say it slowly. Say it again. Let the vibration fill your body. Now, say your own name, but from this same center. Not as label, but as a sacred vibration. This is your original sound, your soul's tone, your divine signature. Use it, speak it, bless with it, not to be heard, but to be felt. Now that you've remembered the power of the word, now that you've touched the vibration behind the name, you are ready to enter the next temple. Not the temple of voice, but the temple of vision. Let us step into the sacred partnership between consciousness and creation. Let us explore the observer's power. Chapter 6, Between Science and Mystery. We live in a time when science is beginning to remember what the mystics have always known, that everything is energy. That thought is not random, it is causal. That you are not separate from the world you observe. You are the origin point of its unfolding. This is not philosophy. This is physics, and it changes everything. The universe is not solid. It's vibrational. For centuries, we were taught to see the world as a machine, a fixed set of parts, matter interacting with matter. But now we know there is no such thing as solid. Atoms are mostly space. And even the parts we call particles are not things, they're vibrating fields of potential. Matter, at its core, is not substance. It is frequency. This means that what you call reality is not built from bricks. It is built from vibration. And what determines the frequency? Consciousness, the observer effect. In quantum mechanics, there's a strange truth. Particles behave differently when they are being observed. Left alone, they exist in a state of possibility, like a cloud of outcomes not yet decided. But once observed, they collapse into form. The act of witnessing doesn't just record reality, it creates it. You are not watching the world. You are participating in it, energetically, consciously, constantly. Your attention is not neutral. It is a force field, a sculptor's hand. What you focus on, you feed. What you expect, you invite. What you believe, you build. Thoughts are not private. They are electric. Your brain is an electromagnetic transmitter. Each thought you think sends out a wave, not just inside your head, not just metaphorically, but literally. These waves interact with the quantum field, the great web of possibility that surrounds and permeates all things. This is why two people can live the same day, and experience two entirely different realities. It's not the day that's different. It's the observer. You're not a passive experiencer. You're a living frequency modulator. You're not stuck in your circumstances. You are shaping them from the inside out. The mirror of reality. As within, so without. This hermetic truth is echoed in quantum science. Your external reality is not random. It is a mirror of your internal state. Not in a moralistic way, not as punishment or reward, but as resonance. If your inner frequency is rooted in fear, you attract distortion, conflict, scarcity. If your inner field vibrates in truth and coherence, you draw clarity, beauty, and opportunity. This is not superstition. It is entrainment. The field always reflects back the vibration it receives. So the question is not, why is the world this way? The question is, what am I broadcasting into the field? The formula, intention plus attention equals creation. Let's make this simple. Intention is the seed. Attention is the sunlight. Emotion is the water. Belief is the soil. Together, they shape what grows in your life. You do this every day, whether you know it or not. Every thought, every I am, every assumption, every focus, you are constantly writing your reality with invisible ink. The mystics called it prayer. The scientists call it field manipulation. You can call it whatever you want, but the truth remains. You are the interface between spirit and matter. You are the place where the universe decides how to show up next. Co-creation, living in alignment with the field. The awakened being does not try to control reality. They don't manipulate. They harmonize. They align their frequency with what they wish to experience. They speak as if it is already done. They walk as if it is already given. They love as if the world is already healed. This is not denial. It is creative authority. It is the conscious choice to be a channel of coherence in a chaotic world. You don't fight distortion. You outshine it. You don't resist the storm. You radiate such stillness that the storm dissipates in your presence. The sacred observer. Now you understand. You are not here to react. You are here to respond with mastery. You are not here to wish. You are here to intend. You are not here to chase outcomes. You are here to broadcast frequencies that magnetize what matches your vibration. You're not a victim of the field. You are a composer within it. And when you live this way, aware, aligned, and attuned, you don't just change your life. You change the lives of those around you simply by being in the room. Because frequency is contagious. Coherence is healing. Truth is magnetic. Now that you know who you are, a field of consciousness, a sculptor of experience, a living vibration, let's talk about the signs that this awakening is real. Not abstract, not theoretical, but embodied. Let's explore the 3 signs of awakening. Chapter 7, the 3 signs of awakening. Spiritual awakening is not a concept. It is not a trend. It is not something to add to your list of achievements. It is a shift in your baseline state of being. It cannot be faked. And once it begins, it cannot be reversed. You may still live in the same body. You may still walk the same streets. But you're not the same. The world hasn't changed. You have. And because you have, everything begins to look different, feel different, move differently. There are many signs of awakening, but 3 stand as eternal markers. 3 frequencies that arise naturally when the soul begins to remember its true origin. The cosmic laugh. The first sign of awakening is not knowing more, it's laughing more. At some point on the path, you begin to see through the veil. Not with scorn, not with cynicism, but with gentle astonishment. You see how much suffering was built on misunderstandings, how much fear was based on stories, how deeply you believed in illusions, crafted by culture, trauma, or ego. And when the spell breaks, there's only one response: laughter. Not a laugh of arrogance, but a laugh of freedom. It is the laughter of the sky when the storm passes, the laughter of a child realizing the monster under the bed was a coat. It is joy beyond reason, because you see that what once tormented you was never truly real. You're no longer imprisoned by stories. You're free to play, to dance, to wonder again. This is the cosmic laugh, a sacred sound that echoes through all awakened hearts. Flow without resistance. The second sign of awakening is not force, it's surrender. You stop fighting with reality. You stop trying to bend life to your will. You begin to listen instead, to follow the subtle currents, to trust the rhythm. This doesn't mean passivity. It means intelligent participation. You become like water, strong in motion, soft in form, unstoppable in presence. You no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" You ask, "What is this showing me?" Pain is still pain, but it's not the enemy. Challenge is still challenge, but it no longer defines you. You move through change with grace, with breath, with an inner stability that no circumstance can shake. You realize that resistance was never power. It was fear pretending to be control. Now, you ride the river. You trust the turns. You surrender not to defeat, but to intelligent alignment. This is flow. This is freedom. Conscious creation. The third sign of awakening is becoming a conscious artist of reality. You realize that your life is not something happening to you. It's something happening through you. You no longer think aimlessly. You no longer speak carelessly. You no longer create without intention. Your words become spells. Your emotions become sculpting tools. Your visions become blueprints. You don't try to control outcomes. You align with outcomes. You broadcast the frequency of what you wish to experience. And the universe, the infinite field, responds. Not instantly, not always predictably, but it responds because you're no longer fragmented. Your inner world is coherent, and coherence is power. You speak less. You say more. You do less. You accomplish more because you're no longer leaking energy into illusion. You are channeling energy through truth. This is not magic. This is resonance. And you are now a conscious creator. The three signs together. When the laughter comes, you know that the illusion is lifting. When flow arrives, you know that trust has awakened. When creation responds, you know that alignment is complete. These signs do not need to be performed. They are not badges. They are ripples of an inner shift. They're not loud. They are subtle but unmistakable. And they do not come from effort. They come from presence. You don't chase them. They emerge from you when you stop chasing everything else. So if you have laughed in freedom, if you have let go and flowed, if you have spoken and seen the world rearrange itself, you are awakening. You don't need a title. You don't need permission. You are already becoming light. But this is not the end. This is a doorway. Because awakening is not the finish line. It's the beginning of true integration. And to walk forward with power, you must no longer reject any part of yourself. You must enter the sacred work of integration. Light and shadow, spirit and matter, heaven and earth. Let us now descend into the place where wholeness is born. Chapter 8. The integration of light and shadow. You have touched the light. You have remembered your essence. You have laughed at the dream, flowed with the current, and spoken your world into being. And now, the shadow returns, not as punishment, not as failure, but as a sacred invitation. Because awakening is not about escaping the dark. It's about bringing the light into it. You cannot become whole by amputating half your truth. What is the shadow? The shadow is not evil. It is exiled energy. It is what you were told not to be, what you believed you couldn't feel, what you decided you must hide to survive. It is anger swallowed, grief ignored, power disowned, pleasure repressed, truth abandoned. It is every part of you that went unloved by others and eventually by you. But here's the paradox. What you resist in yourself gains power over you. What you reject does not disappear. It disguises itself. It manipulates from the dark. It speaks through your projections, your compulsions, your unconscious choices, until you turn toward it with eyes wide open. You're not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole. The spiritual path is not about polishing yourself into something shiny and untouchable. That's performance. That's ego dressed in white robes. True awakening is humble. It kneels before the shadow and says, I see you. I know where you came from. You can come home now. You don't transcend by bypassing. You transcend by descending fully into the places you abandoned. You hold your rage without harming. You grieve without drowning. You speak your boundaries without guilt. You feel your desire without shame. This is what it means to be whole. Not light without shadow, but light that illuminates shadow and transforms it through love. Shadow as alchemical material. In alchemy, transformation never happens in theory. It happens through fire, and the fire needs fuel. Shadow is that fuel. It is dense energy packed with potential. When embraced, it becomes clarity, compassion, creative power. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your teacher, your initiator. Every trigger is a message. Every judgment is a mirror. Every emotional wave is an unopened letter from your soul. Open it, read it, let it guide you back to the parts of yourself you try to bury. A practice, dialogue with the shadow. Sit in stillness. Close your eyes. Bring to mind a part of yourself you've avoided, a part you criticize, or fear, or disown. Now, instead of pushing it away, invite it in. Ask it, what do you need from me? What are you trying to protect? What truth are you holding on my behalf? Listen, don't analyze, just feel. You may cry. You may feel heat. You may hear silence. But something is happening. You are bringing a banished part of your soul back into the circle, and wholeness is nothing more than that. All parts welcomed, all voices heard, all energies embraced. When shadow and light dance together, something miraculous begins to unfold. When you stop the war within, you become more grounded, more real, more trustworthy to yourself and to others. Because you're no longer performing peace. You are living it. You're no longer striving to be good. You're being true. And truth, even when messy, is holy. From this place of integration, your light shines with depth. Your presence carries weight. Your love becomes medicine because it has room for everything. This is what the world needs now. Not more perfection, but more people who are deeply, honestly human, and who remember that their humanity is divine. The journey does not end here. In fact, it has only just begun. For now that you walk in the world, as one who holds both light and shadow, you are ready to return to the whole, to see the unity not only within you, but in all of creation, to see this sacred pattern in every leaf, every moment, every breath. Let's now rise into the truth of oneness, not as a philosophy, but as the living pulse of your being. Chapter 9, Unity, the heart of the universe. Unity is not something you achieve. It's something you realize. It's not found in thought. It's not earned through effort. It's remembered in the stillness between all striving. Unity is what remains when the illusion of separation dissolves, not just between you and others, but between all things, between sound and silence, between breath and space. between thought and awareness, the illusion of separation. We were taught to see ourselves as isolated units, bodies with borders, minds with walls. But separation is only perception, and perception is not fixed. It is filtered. The more you awaken, the more the filters fall away. You begin to see that the same life force animating you is animating the trees, the birds, the strangers in traffic, the wind across your skin. It's all the same field, the same breath, the same current. When you walk through the forest, you're not walking through nature. You are nature greeting itself. The universe is not out there. It's in here. Look up at the stars. They seem so far away, but the same elements in your bones. We're born inside those stars. You are made of ancient light. You are composed of cosmic dust. You are not in the universe. The universe is in you. Mystics have always known this. Now science agrees. We are not observers of creation. We are participants in its unfolding. Every heartbeat sends ripples through the whole. Every choice shifts the collective frequency. You are not insignificant. You are interwoven, the fabric of wholeness. Everything is connected, not in a poetic sense, but in a literal, vibrational reality. Touch one part of the web, and the whole web feels it. This is why your healing matters. This is why your awakening is not personal. It is collective. When you forgive, you soften the whole field. When you choose truth, you amplify resonance for all beings. When you love without condition, you restore the memory of unity. In every heart you touch, your inner state is a gift. You're always given the world. Unity is not sameness, it's symphonic harmony. Wholeness doesn't mean uniformity. It means inclusion. Just as a symphony needs violins and drums, your soul's song needs both silence and sound, stillness and action, clarity and mystery. Unity doesn't erase uniqueness. It honors it, because the one expresses itself through the many. Every being you meet is a facet of the same gem, a note in the same song, a wave in the same ocean. And you are not just a drop in the sea. You are the sea in a drop, living as a unified presence. What does it mean to live in unity? It means to speak with awareness that your words shape the field, to walk with reverence for every form of life, to act from a place of inner alignment, not reaction, to see beauty not just in sunsets, but in sorrow, to recognize the divine not only in temples, but in traffic. It means living your day as a ceremony, eating, walking, breathing as sacred movements. It means remembering that each moment is the whole, and that your presence matters more than you know. The circle of becoming. In the symbol of the circle, there is no beginning, no end, just return, again and again. You come back to this. You were never outside the circle. You only believed you were. And now, you stand in the center, not as someone who knows everything, but as someone who has remembered that everything is already here, in your chest, in your gaze, in the space between your thoughts. So now, dear traveler, we begin to ask a new question. If I am whole, if I am the field, if I am connected to everything, how shall I live? What does a life look like when it is lived from truth? Instead of fear, what does it mean to embody unity in a world that has forgotten it? To answer that, we step into the sacred art of embodied devotion. We no longer walk to seek. We walk to serve. Let us enter the dance of life. Chapter 10, the dance of life, living awake. Awakening is not the mountaintop. It's the path beneath your feet. It is not a destination. It is a devotional way of walking. Once you remember who you are, the question becomes simple. How will you live from that remembrance? Not as a performance, not to impress, but because the truth, once seen, asks to be embodied in your breath, in your touch, in the way you speak someone's name, in the way you tie your shoes, in the way you greet the sun. Living awake is living present. Presence is not complicated. It's not mystical. It's not lofty. It is this sip of tea, this glance toward the sky, this moment of listening with your whole being. When you are fully present, life reveals its beauty without needing to impress you, because nothing is missing. You are no longer reaching. You're no longer trying to prove or escape. You are here, and here is enough. Every act of prayer, to live awake, is to infuse the mundane with meaning, to sweep the floor with the same reverence you bring to meditation, to speak a kind word as though it were a mantra, to cook your meal as if you're feeding the sacred within you. This is the essence of devotion, not ritual alone, but attention, intention, presence. In truth, everything becomes a ritual when done with love. Sacred simplicity, the awakened life, is not filled with excess. It is filled with essence. Fewer distractions, deeper connection, less noise, more listening. You stop chasing what is loud and begin attending to what is true. You declutter the altar of your life and rediscover that silence was always the temple. You begin to say no to what drains you. You begin to say yes to what nourishes the soul. Simplicity becomes not lack, but luxury of spirit. Service becomes natural. From this state of fullness, you begin to give, not to be praised, not to be liked, but because the love inside you wants to overflow. You pick up the fallen thing. You speak the healing word. You meet the stranger with soft eyes. This is not a mission. It's a side effect of being deeply in tune. You cannot help but give when you realize there is nothing you lack, and in your giving, you receive tenfold, not in form, but in resonance, in meaning, in joy. The rhythm of breath, the rhythm of life. Breath in, you receive. Breath out, you give. That's the rhythm. That's the dance. You don't need to plan every step. You just need to stay attuned to the music of the moment. Some days the dance is slow. Some days it's fiery. Other days you sit in stillness and let the dance happen inside you. Whatever it looks like, stay with it. Stay in rhythm, with your heart, with the earth, with the sacred timing of your soul. You become the living temple. You no longer search for sacred spaces, because you become one. Your body becomes an altar. Your words become offerings. Your presence becomes a blessing. People feel it, not because you try to be spiritual, but because you are authentic. And authenticity is rare. It shines. It heals, not by effort, but by alignment. Your life is the path. There's nothing to chase, nowhere to get to, no higher level to unlock. The most profound truths are the simplest. Wake with gratitude, walk with humility, speak with integrity, rest in trust, give from fullness, return to silence often, love even when it hurts. This is the dance, the holy choreography of a life well lived. So now, beloved one, you have remembered, you have returned, you have risen, you've walked through fire, held the shadow, touched the name, and danced with the light. And though this audio ends, your dance continues, moment by moment, step by sacred step, not as a seeker, but as the awakened presence you always were. Chapter 11, The Art of Listening to the World. The world is not silent, even when no one speaks, even when the wind stills. Life continues to whisper in the language beneath language. We think of listening as something done with the ears, but true listening is done with the whole being, with skin, with breath, with intuition. It's the art of hearing the invisible and trusting what you feel before your mind tries to explain it. Life speaks in synchronicities. You think of someone, and they call. You feel a strange pull to turn left instead of right, and find yourself in exactly the place you needed to be. A word repeats itself across conversations, books, and dreams. Coincidence or conversation? When you are tuned in, synchronicity becomes a natural rhythm, not magic. Communication. The field is always speaking, through pattern, through timing, through the choreography of seeming accidents. Synchronicities are the universe's way of saying, yes, you're on the path. Yes, keep going. Messages from nature. Birdsong at a moment of sorrow. A hawk circling above a decision. The sudden appearance of a butterfly. After a long period of inner transformation. These are not symbols you assign meaning to. They are symbols that carry meaning inherently. Animals, plants, elements. They are all part of the original language. Long before writing, humans looked to the natural world for guidance, for rhythm, for reflection. The river teaches flow. The tree teaches rootedness and expansion. The fire teaches presence and purification. And when you stop long enough to listen, they still do. Dreams as sacred mirrors. In sleep, the rational mind softens. The gatekeepers rest, and the soul begins to speak. Not always clearly, not always comfortably, but truthfully. Dreams are not random. They are symbolic letters, from your inner world to your waking self. When you learn to listen to them without judgment, you begin to understand what your deeper self is trying to tell you. The monsters are parts of you that want integration. The flying is freedom your soul is calling for. The lost places are invitations to come home. Dreams are not just echoes of the day. They are portals into your soul's terrain. The body is messenger. Your body is not a machine. It is a sacred intelligence. And when something is out of balance, it speaks. Pain is not the enemy. It is a message, a signal, a call for alignment. That tightness in your chest when you ignore your truth. That fatigue when you abandon your joy. That fire in your gut when you compromise your boundaries. The body is not betraying you. It is trying to save you. To live awake is to include the body in the conversation, to listen to its signals, as you would listen to a trusted elder. Feelings as guides, anger, sadness, longing, excitement. Each feeling is a frequency, and each frequency is a message, not to be controlled, but to be felt, honored, and followed. Your feelings are not flaws. They are feedback. When you listen to them, you live truthfully. When you silence them, you live divided. Integration begins the moment you stop labeling your emotions as good or bad and start listening to them as sacred signals. The practice of deep listening. Listening is not passive. It is participatory. It requires silence, yes, but also presence. It's the act of saying to the world, I am here. I am paying attention. Try this. Sit with no agenda. Ask a question. Then listen to your body, to the room, to what arises spontaneously. The answer may come as a sentence, a memory, a chill on your skin, a knowing in your gut, a bird outside your window. The voice of the sacred is everywhere, but you must slow down to hear it. Living as a listener. When you live as a listener, everything becomes a teacher. Your relationships become mirrors. Your mistakes become lessons. Your pain becomes a path. Your joy becomes instruction. And slowly you stop needing signs, because your life itself becomes a sign, a clear, steady signal of one who is in tune with the deeper rhythm. This is not superstition. It's sensitivity. It's what the mystics meant by communion. You are in communion now, with yourself, with the world, with the divine. Now, dear listener, what if you brought this kind of listening into your relationships? What if the people in your life are not problems to solve, but sacred reflections to explore? Let's enter now the temple of relationships, where love becomes initiation, and every connection is a mirror of the soul. Chapter 12, Sacred Relationships, Mirrors of the Divine. We were not meant to walk this path alone, not because we are incomplete, but because we are reflected in the eyes of others, in ways we could never see on our own. Relationships are not just human arrangements. They're soul contracts, designed not to fulfill your ego, but to awaken your essence, the other as a mirror. Every person you encounter shows you something about yourself. Those who inspire you reflect the beauty and potential you may have forgotten within. Those who irritate or trigger you reflect the unhealed places still asking for your presence. This does not mean others are right or justified. It means that your reaction is the teacher. What you love in others lives in you. What disturbs you is asking to be seen. This is not blame. It's an invitation to own your reflection. Love as a sacred fire. Real love is not just sweetness. It is fire. It burns through illusions. It melts defenses. It calls forth the highest in you by showing you the parts you still keep hidden. To truly love another is to say, I see all of you, even the parts you don't yet see, and I choose to stay present. Love is not attachment. Love is not possession. Love is not needing someone to be your everything. Love is witnessing the sacred in another and holding space for its unfolding with honesty, courage, and tenderness. The relationship as a temple. When you treat connection as sacred, your relationship becomes a temple, a space where truth can be spoken, where vulnerability is honored, where silence is allowed to speak louder than noise. This doesn't mean no conflict. It means conscious conflict. It means seeing disagreement not as threat, but as friction that polishes both souls. It means understanding that the ego will react, but the awakened heart can pause, breathe, and choose love over being right. Sacred relationships are built not on perfection, but on presence, not on sameness, but on shared intention. Boundaries are bridges, not walls. To love clearly, you must also define yourself clearly. Boundaries are not barriers. They're lines of clarity that say, this is where I end and you begin. This is what I offer with love. This is what I cannot carry for you. Without boundaries, love becomes martyrdom. With boundaries, love becomes clean, strong, and free. And the truth is, your boundary doesn't separate you from the other. It allows you to meet them honestly. It allows two sovereign beings to come together, not in fusion, but in conscious union, letting go when it's time. Some relationships are not meant to last forever. They arrive to teach, to reflect, to stir something inside you. And when their purpose has ripened, letting go is not failure. It is fulfillment. To release someone with love is to honor the soul contract that brought you together. Not all mirrors are permanent. Some are passing messengers. Let them go, without resentment, without clinging, and trust that their echo lives within you. Always. A practice, sacred dialogue. When conflict arises, try this. Sit face to face. Hold hands or place a hand on your own heart. Breathe together for 1 minute. Then, take turns speaking from the I. Not to blame, but to reveal. I feel. I need. What I'm learning is, when both speak and both listen, Walls fall. Truth flows. Healing becomes possible. This is love, not the fantasy, but the holy labor of meeting soul to soul. You are the love you're looking for. In the end, every sacred relationship points you back to your own essence. The other is not your completion. They are your mirror, your companion, your catalyst. The deepest love is the one you remember within yourself, and then choose to offer freely. When two beings love from this place, a new field opens, a field of co-creation, of resonance, of freedom wrapped in devotion. This is Love Awake, and it changes everything. Now that you've remembered love as a mirror, let's return to where words end and essence remains. Let us step together into the silence that birthed every chapter. The pause before creation, the breath between knowing. Let's close our journey with reverence in the silence beyond the words. Chapter 13, the silence beyond the words. There comes a moment on every journey when the footsteps stop, when the path disappears, and all that remains is this breath, this space, this sacred living now. You have heard the words. You have remembered the light. You have danced with the mystery. And now you are invited to rest, not from exhaustion, but from the effort to know. The truth lies in the silence. All teachings point here. The scriptures fall silent. The masters smile and say nothing. The mantras dissolve into breath. Because the deepest truth is not something to be said. It is something to be felt. It is not delivered in syllables. It arises in the space between them. This silence is not empty. It is full, alive, vibrating, luminous. It is the womb of all creation, the altar behind the temple, the essence behind every form, the end of seeking. You have sought answers. You have studied and searched. You've climbed mountains within yourself, looking for meaning. And now you sit down, not because you've given up, but because you've finally realized that what you were looking for was always right here. Truth is not hidden. It is quiet. It waits in the pause, between inhale and exhale, in the gap, between thoughts. You don't need to chase it anymore. You only need to stop running. Nothing to add, nothing to fix. In this silence, you're not broken. You're not behind. You are not lacking. You're not the roles you play, or the thoughts you think, or even the healing you've done. You are awareness itself, watching, holding, loving. There is nothing left to prove, nothing left to change. You are already what you have been trying to become. Let that truth sink beneath the skin. Let it rest inside your bones. You are whole. You are complete. You are home. Silence is a teacher. To the mind, silence feels like absence. But to the soul, it is the ultimate presence. When you sit in stillness, you begin to hear a new kind of wisdom. The kind that doesn't argue, doesn't rush, doesn't need to explain. It arrives as knowing. Soft, simple, unmistakable. A message that says, you are loved, you are held, you are enough. In silence, you stop speaking to the divine and start listening to it. You stop praying with words and begin praying with being, returning to the sacred center. This entire journey has been a spiral, each chapter a turning inward, and now you arrive at the center, not to stay forever, but to remember it's always here. You don't need more. You need less. Less noise, less striving, less proving. Just this breath, this moment, this silence that is not the absence of sound, but the presence of everything. A closing practice, rest in silence. Close your eyes. Feel your breath enter and leave. Like waves on a shore, let the words of this journey float like petals on water. Let them go. There is nothing to remember, nothing to repeat. Just rest. Feel the silence within you, not as emptiness, but as fullness. Let it hold you. Let it fill you. Let it remind you of who you were before the world told you otherwise. Stay here just a little longer. This is not the end. This is the beginning without needing to begin. If you've come this far, you have walked with courage. You've remembered what cannot be forgotten. You've touched the timeless. You become the temple. And now, as the silence settles, let your life become the next chapter. Let your every step be a prayer. Let your presence be the teaching. Let your love be the transmission. You carry the light now, not for others to follow, but for them to find their own. If this journey touched your heart, if the silence spoke louder than the words, share this with someone who needs to remember. Subscribe to the channel. Every day, we release new content to nourish the soul. This isn't just a series of words. It's a living frequency. Let it ripple. Let it echo. And when you forget, as we all do, come back. The silence will still be here, waiting, because you're never alone. You're never lost, and you are always enough.